Good morning to you and welcome to Penn Vicarage on this Monday morning. Hope you've had a lovely weekend and thank you for joining us for our Bible reflection as we continue our study through the book of Proverbs. And a fascinating book it is too. It's interesting because most books you read, there's like a story or a text or a section, but each chapter here is like a lot of different sermons. So today's chapter 14 we're looking at today is 35 verses, and you could do 35 different sermons about it, which will keep you here all day. But what I'm going to do now is, as I've been doing, I'll read you the chapter and I'll give you a few headlines you might see afterwards. So here we go, Proverbs and chapter 14. The wise woman builds her house, but the foolish tears it down with their own hands. Those who walk uprightly fear the Lord, but one who is devious in conduct despises him. The talk of fools is a rob for their backs, but the lips of the wise preserve them. Where there are no oxen, there is no grain. Abundant crops come by the strength of the ox. A faithful witness does not lie, but a false witness breathes out lies. A scoffer seeks wisdom in vain, but knowledge is easy for one who understands. Leave the presence of a fool, for they do not find words of knowledge. It's the wisdom of the clever to understand where they go, but the folly of fools misleads. Fools mock at the guilt offering, but the upright enjoy God's favour. The heart knows its own bitterness, and no stranger shares its joy. The house of the wicked is destroyed, but the tent of the upright flourishes. There is a way that seems right to a person, but its end is the way to death. Even in laughter the heart is sad, and the end of joy is grief. The perverse get what their ways deserve, and the good what their deeds deserve. The simple believe everything, but the clever consider their steps. The wise are cautious and turn away from evil, but the fool throws off restraint and is careless. One who is quick-tempered acts foolishly, and the schemer is hated. The simple are adorned with folly, but the clever are crowned with knowledge. The evil bow down before the good, the wicked at the gates of the righteous. The poor are disliked even by the neighbours, but the rich have many friends. Those who despise their neighbours are sinners, but happy are those who are kind to the poor. Do they not err that plan evil? Those who plan good find loyalty and faithfulness. In oil toil there is profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. The crown of the wise is their wisdom, but folly is the garland of fools. A truthful witness saves lives, one who utters lies is a betrayer. In the fear of the Lord one has strong confidence, and one's children will have a refuge. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, so one may avoid the snares of death. The glory of a king is a multitude of people. Without people, a prince is ruined. Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but one who has a hasty temper exalts folly. A tranquil mind gives life to the flesh, but passion makes the bones rot. Those who oppress the poor insult their maker, but those who are kind to the needy honour him. The wicked are overthrown by their evil doing, but the righteous find a refuge in their integrity. Wisdom is at home in the mind of one who has understanding, but it's not known in the heart of fools. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. A servant who deals wisely has the king's favour, but his wrath falls on one who acts shamefully. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay, as always, you have 35 verses here, they're all what you might call standalone, and almost all the verses kind of go like this. The wise like this, and the foolish like this, or the foolish like this, and the wise like that. And in almost every verse, you get like a contrast between good behaviour and bad behaviour, between wise and foolish, between good and evil, that type of stuff. And each verse is kind of a bit like that. And as I say, I could do 35 talks on this, but I'm going to give you just a few headlines, you might say. Firstly, we're going to start at verse 3. The talk of fools is a rod for their backs. Now, rod for their backs, we talk about somebody making a rod for their own back, causing trouble for themselves. It's a bit more than that. The word rod is actually sprig. It implies something living. And it kind of implies that we know the source of their foolishness, the source of their problem. In a sense, you might say yeah, their foolishness kind of finds them out. I think what it's kind of saying, it becomes obvious where their foolishness comes from after a while, and that the root of their foolishness becomes clear, if you see what I mean. So not only is it saying that the talk of fools is what we call rough their own backs, but it also kind of show what it's saying here is it demonstrate in time is demonstrated kind of where their foolishness came from. Okay, so that's verse 3. There's a few thoughts there. So the root of foolishness comes out as well. You kind of see where it comes from. So the truth will out, you might say. Verse 6 talks about, again, somebody called a scoffer. You get various people. You get the foolish, and you get the sluggard, and today you've got the scoffer. And the scoffer is someone who kind of he scoffs over wisdom. Don't want to do such thing, kind of thing. And it says here, a scoffer seeks wisdom in vain, but knowledge is easy for one who understands. And I think what it's about saying here is wisdom is there for everybody, but the scoffer doesn't really want to hear it and kind of scoffs after it, so they're never going to get it. Whereas somebody that's wise, someone that's open to it, you might say, is likely is going to get it. So, in a sense, wisdom is there, and if we want it, it's there for us. But those who don't want it, the scoffers, you might say, aren't going to get it. As my wife would say, people do what they want to do. And I suppose, in a sense, here, people receive what they want to receive. Verse 9, fools mock at the guilt offering, but the upright enjoy God's favour. A guilt offering was an offering that you gave when you messed up, when you sinned against God. And a guilt offering is about having your sin washed away, so you can be right with God again. And what it's really saying here, I think, is that a wise person is somebody who cares very much about being right with God and about making sure that you keep clean accounts with God and doing God's will and making sure you don't disobey God, whereas the foolish would mock at such things. So really it's about saying here that a wise person is somebody who wants to keep right with God. Verse 11, notice here, the house of the wicked is destroyed, but the tent of the upright flourishes. So basically what it's saying is you're better off being in a cheap house if you're a wise person than you are being in a posh house if you're wicked. So I think I like that. The house of the wicked is destroyed, but the tent of the upright flourishes. Okay, moving on. Verses 15 to 17. It's really about the importance here, really, about acting carefully. The wisdom is about, the simple believe everything, believe everything everyone tells them, but the clever consider their steps. The wise are cautious and turn away from evil. The fool throws off restraint and is careless. One who is quick-tempered acts foolishly, and the schemer is hated. So it's really about saying the importance here of acting thoughtfully, but acting carefully in life. And a wise person is somebody who takes care and thinks what would God want, thinks what is right, as opposed to just going ahead and just believing everything everyone tells them, just going with the flow and so on. A righteous person, a wise person is someone who considers their acts carefully. Then, verse 26, I'm doing my best here. 26, in the fear of the Lord, one has strong confidence. I love that. To fear God, as I said before, doesn't mean to be terrified of God. It's about honouring God. And if you honour God, actually, that gives you confidence in life because He knows that you are living life God's way and you're doing God's will, really. So that's just kind of really important here, really. The fear of the Lord, it gives you confidence. Knowing that you're doing God's will, knowing that you're inside the will of God, there's nothing like it for giving you confidence that you're in the right place. I would say the best place in the world to be, wherever that might be, is where God wants us to be. Then in verse 31 here, it says here, those who oppress the poor insult their maker, but those who are kind to the needy honour him. So, if people that sort of say they're godly and so on, but oppress the poor actually insult God. Whereas a wise person, a person who wants to honour God is somebody who is kind. And it reminds me really of the reading of Jesus in Matthew 25. He talks about the sheep and the goats and about, blessed is the person who when I was in prison and you visited me and I was poor and you gave me something, thirsty, you gave me something to drink and so on. And about, the sheep were the people who cared for those in need and the goats were those who weren't. And then finally, verse 35, right at the end, it says here, a servant who deals wisely has the king's favour, but his wrath falls on one who acts shamefully. And I suppose in a sense here, it's saying here that a wise person is going to get the king's favour. Someone's going to get on, you might say, and becomes well known and honoured. And I think this is very important, especially when it's hard to be a Christian, actually. And I'm thinking in particular in the book of Daniel, about Daniel and his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they were people who honoured God and who acted wisely and honestly. And even though they were in exile in Babylon, I think it was, even though they were in exile with a foreign king, if you like, who wasn't naturally well disposed towards God and God's faith and so on, because they were honest and because they acted righteously and effectively, they got the king's favour as well, and they did well. So I think there's something very important here, especially when being a Christian is hard. And, you can ask questions about where we are at the moment. People who act wisely and act honestly and with integrity are people who get the favour of the king and who tend to get on, and that really is the right way to be. So friends, lots in this morning's reading this morning about the importance of being open to hear what God says and not being a scoffer, about the importance of making sure that you're right with God, about the importance of looking after the poor, about the importance of acting wisely and honestly, about the fact that trusting God and fearing God gives you confidence in life. But I finish again with a lovely verse 11. The house of the wicked is destroyed, but the tent of the upright flourishes. That's a good way to finish. God bless you, my friends. Have a lovely Monday. Thank you for watching this morning. Do please, as always, I would say, share these messages with your friends. Thanks for watching. Have a lovely Monday and more tomorrow. And God bless you today.